Pleasant day, everyone. My report for today is about the feasibility study. And I'll start off with a quote from Ian McFarlane. She's a, he's an executive of the Queensland Resource Council, a politician in Australia, and a farmer as well. And he quoted, when everyone feels that risks are at their minimum, overconfidence can take over and elementary precautions start to get watered down. Now let's see how this risk relates to my report later. And to start with, I'll be sharing you the learning objectives. That is, to discuss, elaborate, and illustrate different aspects, parts of feasibility study. The second one is to prepare and present pro forma feasibility study of a small, medium business. Now, this second item will be reported by my co-partner and reporter, De La Cruz Jamaica. Okay, so what's the first thing that comes to mind when you hear the word risk? Once again, what's the first thing that comes to mind when you hear the word risk? Yes, you may say it's a loss, a threat, and yes, of course, others say it's an opportunity. Now, let's look at these two ways a client may express what they're looking for. Make me money, just don't take on too much risk. And then the second client, keep my investment safe, but try to make me some money. So, are you the first client or the second client? Now, let's continue with my report. I'll be reviewing about risk, which we studied before in the last semester, wherein risk is the potential for divergence between the actual outcome and what is expected. Risk is uncertainty about what will happen in the future. It is also considered good, that is, when the results are better than expected higher returns. Now, it can also be considered bad, that is, when the results are worse than expected, lower returns. Now, I'll proceed with the outline of my report. About the feasibility study, I'll be discussing about the 6 aspects of feasibility study. First, organizational slash management aspect. 2, marketing aspect. 3, operational aspect. 4, technical aspect. 5, financial aspect. 6, economic and legal aspects. Then I'll also be sharing some of the related readings and summary and conclusion. So let's start with that definition of feasibility study. A feasibility study is an evaluation and analysis of a project or system that somebody has proposed. We also call it feasibility or variability analysis. They say a successful project or business is the result of thorough planning, and that's why we'll be discussing about feasibility analysis or feasibility study. Once again, feasibility analysis is the process of determining whether a business idea is viable, meaning the synonym of doable, and it is the preliminary evaluation of a business idea. See, a business idea, and this is a preliminary evaluation. And it is conducted for the purpose of determining whether the idea is worth pursuing. So that's one of the keywords, worth pursuing, viable, preliminary evaluation. Now, feasibility analysis takes the guesswork to a certain degree. So it's another keyword, guesswork to a certain degree, out of a business launch and provides an entrepreneur with a more secure notion that a business idea is feasible or viable. Now, aside the other zone words, I'll be showing you a graphics. This one, it's feasibility plan versus business plan. As you can see in the drawing, the feasibility study comes first. So you'll be asking, is it doable? Will it be profitable? And then you'll go with the no go, go, no go signal. And when it's approved, then it's the time that you'll be preparing the business plan. It comes last because here, the business plan, it's where you do or how you will do it. Remember in the feasibility study, you have your plan and then you have that. And then in the business plan, it's how you do it. Let's start with the aspects of feasibility study. The first one is organizational management aspect. So I presented it in two columns. The first one is about the description, and the second one is about example. The requirement of the human resource is also scrutinized. Is it the aspect wherein the skills required by the professionals and an estimation of the firm's capacity falls under? So here we required background of the professionals and any shortcoming being faced by the current human resource of the new business or project are analyzed. So an example question would be, is the organization capable of accepting the change involved in managing information and adopting new processes? Is the organization capable of accepting the change involved in making decisions? Can employees make decisions with the information on the system, or will they revert to using their intuition? So see, in the organizational management aspect, the entire legal and corporate organizational structure is planned accordingly, with our goal, of course, to help ensure that the firm has and keyword natin again, adequate resources for the running of smooth operations. And you'll be hearing it every now and then, this, right? The second aspect is marketing aspect. Here, all the details of the respective industry are presented in this section. Important details includes the size, return value, and trends of the industry. This is particular market is being analyzed along with the future market potential. So particular market with the future market potential. And there's also a detailed evaluation required to ensure the success of the business. So in the marketing aspect, we are dealing on the competitive landscape as well. And for the example, we have here the description of the product and service. If there are variations, it should be considered and analyzed so that or to the most profitable one may be adopted. Second one, a profile of the potential customers rather is prepared and the size of the market in terms of prospective buyers is also estimated. And as we learned from our business analytics, these are through the use of historical data, sales projections that can be estimated. The third item is different locations of the target audience. We have to explore it, and the most beneficial audience and location may be selected. The degree of acceptability of the deliverable exhibited by the proposal target audience may be generated. Diba? The target audience and the location as well. And the last one is pricing strategies are to be taken. Now let's move on to the third operational aspect. Here, once again, it helps ensure that the firm has an adequate resources for the running of smooth operations. Now, ang keyword naman natin dito sa operation aspect is study of the operations, weighs whether the proposed project in question achieves its objective in solving a particular problem. Whether the upcoming project will be, eto, I highlighted these terms. Highly manageable ba, reliable, efficient, and matches all its necessary operations. One example would be there would be proposed projects and goals that include building a successful, high quality product targeted to solve a particular existing problem. And for me, the example that is very timely is the e-wallet during the pandemic. Before, we are not using it, we're only using cash, coins, but because of the pandemic, we were not really forced, but we are being oriented and we were able to practice the e-wallet system for that no contact transactions or no personal contact transactions. The next aspect is the technical aspect. Here, the potential of the technical resources available to the firm is estimated. An assessment of the skills of the technical team is conducted, and any shortcomings on the way of meeting them are looked into. Now, it involves the evaluation of essential systems, including hardware, software, and technological requirements of the overall system. And this aspect ensure that the firm has an adequate resources for the running of smooth operations, meaning availability of resources in terms of the required labor, material, and relevant technologies. Now, here, it should have the as a support system is very essential. And if there's variations in options related to logistics, then it will be considered or discovered. Now, these are the questions that applies to the technical aspect. Does our current technology, hardware, software, and network support the proposed solution? Do we have the technical competence to build the system? And then the third question would be, can we support and maintain the system when it is being used? So those are the questions. Now let's go to the other aspect, which is the financial aspect. Here, economic feasibility of a project helps organization assess that, once again, the viability, cost, and benefits associated with projects before financial resources are allocated. And here, it helps decision makers determine the positive economic benefits to the organization that proposed will or that the proposed system will provide and helps them quantify them too. Now, ang makikita natin dito sa financial aspect, it typically involves a cost-benefit analysis of the project. And the questions, sample questions in with regard to this one, can we afford the system? What economic benefit will the system provide? Will it improve performance or reduce cost? So see, will it improve performance or reduce cost? So that's one of the consideration in this financial aspect. And then the other aspect the last one, is the economic and legal aspect. Is it true that every country has its own respective legal implication? And any legal requirements that may be hinder or may hinder business activity need to be considered. So this aspect explores all the legal factors that may conflict with the proposed business. And it investigates if the proposed system conflicts with the legal requirements like Data Protection Act or social media law. All relevant laws or protection acts are taken into account. Now, I put here also in my, as per my research, an organization may save considerable time and effort by learning any type of locational constraints its business may face due to legal requirements. So it will really pay us off if we have this preparation on the economic and legal aspect, including the locational constraints. And I put here one example is the Government Procurement Act. I'll go back. And with that Government Procurement Act, there are laws that will be followed. And there are also questions here. Anyway, those questions are also here in the legal and regulatory feasibility. So this summarizes the aspects as I mentioned earlier. And the legal and regulatory feasibility means what restrictions had been introduced by company, law, auditors, government and standards organization. What law must be observed in terms of health and safety, reporting, data protection, and working hours. So you see, this graphic presented us with questions related to the different aspect of feasibility. And once again, this pro tips is making or helping us to have a successful feasibility study that gave, eto nga yun sinasabi, companies, groups, individuals to start and excel in conducting a feasibility study. So whether you're a sole proprietorship or a company or a group, then feasibility study is really important. Now I'll be sharing you in the next slide key decisions in relation to the feasibility study. One is one of the principal functions of the feasibility study is the decision of moving forward with the business. Since all the factors related to the business are taken into account, a clear picture of the different aspect is produced. So different aspects meaning yung organizational, marketing, operational, financial, technical aspect, economic, and the legal aspect. Now, owing to the limited nature of resources, it is essential to ensure that they are being utilized in the most appropriate manner. Now, I included here that the most advantageous path needs to be taken as important resources are not only saved from being wasted on the wrong project, but also invested into relatively profitable ones in the future. So see, considering the limited nature of resources and it's part of the feasibility study. Remember the aspect of the operations and technical aspect. The last two items shows a firm saves itself from facing losses as consideration of the new project becomes dependent on how the return is analyzed against the investment. So how it is analyzed against the investment. the losses, and the risk even. Other than that, a feasibility study also generates concrete reasons for avoidance of the forethought business. The study, meaning feasibility study, is an exploratory purpose and it helps us in various options and implications. Remember, our goal is for have that informed decision, and so this feasibility study will help the managers and the company to guide them in this study and in the business startup. The last one, remember the stoplight that I we have included earlier in the graphics. It's the go no go decision. It is one of the most vital in business development, wherein decisions cannot be reversed, and it is always better to take calculated risk of fixing wrong ones in the future. That's why, like in my company, we are a consultancy services. So we have the so-called TRG, wherein they are deciding whether the go or no go decision, not only from the project team itself or proposing the proposal, but also with the management being involved in the meeting. And if it's a go, then they'll proceed. If a no go, then still it's being saved in the database and it can be a learning, a reference for future proposals. So sharing those decisions, I'll also be key decisions based in our topic. I'll also be sharing the conclusion. As per our discussion in my report, feasibility study entails analyzing factors that may affect the successful implementation of your project, our project. And as I mentioned, as a project manager, you should audit the economic, legal, and technological factors before you make any investment. To prepare a feasibility study, you need to understand its components and the steps involved. And earlier, we were able to discuss and elaborate the different aspect of feasibility study. And these components needs to be correctly analyzed, implemented, and appropriately exercised to achieve more remarkable outcomes. It would also be best to comprehend and exercise the best tips and methodologies when preparing and conducting your project's feasibility study. Lastly, before you invest, take time and examine the viability of the project to confirm whether it will be successful. That's part of our feasibility study. And to summarize, a feasibility study is part of the initial design stage of any project plan. It is conducted in order to objectively uncover the strengths and weaknesses of a proposed project or an existing business. Thus, it helped to identify and assess the opportunities and threats. So, kumpleto na yung SWOT natin, 'di ba? Present in the natural environment, the resources required for the project, and the prospects for success. The comprehensive feasibility analysis, whether it's a product or service desirability, is conducted in order to find the answers to the following questions. One, does the company possess the required resources and technology? Two, will the company receive a sufficient high return on its investment? So those are the two questions that involve being involved with the feasibility analysis. And then the firm or the company that adopts the most, yun na ang ano natin most appropriate strategy of positioning itself relative to the competition. So remember yung ating marketing aspect, right? It directs the decision makers. It refers to the It here refers to the feasibility study. Directs the decision makers to the discovery of the most. So laging may superlative ano, most appropriate strategy, and then this time most beneficial opportunities. It ensures that ito pa isa nating keyword. Siyempre, ang goal natin lagi is to have the right product or service is produced or rendered for the right clients. Yan yung ating goal, diba? Even in logistics supply chain, that's the name. Right product, right service, produced, rendered to the right clients at the right time. And as we started with the risk, remember earlier, and also the question of the two clients, the statement, risk is part and parcel of any business and should not be feared. It should be rather embraced, managed by using a measured and systematic approach. And that is in, which includes conducting the feasibility study. So that summarizes my report. And I'll also be sharing sources and related readings. Anyway, I'll be sharing this PowerPoint or the PDF file with you later. And once or after these related readings, I'll be ending. If I started with a quote, this time I'll be ending with a quote again. And it's from Gerard Schroeder. Kanina Australian, right? Politician, a farmer. This time he's a German ex-chancellor. He says, the question of feasibility, the question of cost, the question of including partners elsewhere in the world, the question of the effect of this project on, imagine arms agreement. All these issues are in discussion. Now, maybe you'll be wondering why I'm closing my report with this one. It only means that like them, if they're having the issues in discussion for arms agreement, it only means that our business, whether it's a startup or an existing business that we have to improve, we have to discuss it and we have to use the feasibility study to guide us in this act of having an informed choice, informed decisions in our respective project and company. Once again, thank you everyone. Let's make the feasibility study a guide for us. And then after me, I'll be endorsing you to my partner, co-reporter, Jamaica de la Cruz, for the sample of feasibility study. Now I'll return the control of the proceedings to you, Micah.